Ciao.
Thank you to all of today's presenters. What a spectacular set of announcements. Our most popular...
That can only mean one thing. Tom Merritt's here with us, everybody.
Neither one of us knows what, but it only means one thing.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a what, like a silent movie thing, or a 1930s movie thing, or maybe a Price is Right thing. I don't know what it is. Looney Tunes, sure. Yeah. Merry melodies, silly symphonies, maybe.
Ah, silly symphony. Love a silly symphony.
Who doesn't love a silly symphony? I miss the ride. I haven't been to Disneyland because I was going to Disneyland, pretty frequently, not overly, but some. I had a pass. They gave me back money for my pass one day because they're like, yeah, listen, it's not you.
It's me.
It's the disease you're carrying to our parks, and we just can't have that. So. Yeah. But they've got that silly symphony ride, which is just a swing. Those swings that like tilt back and forth, and you sit there,
yeah.
And you feel really good about it for the first 2/3, and then it's like, oh, I really wish we could stop this now.
Yeah,
but they do.
Why did I eat that turkey leg?
Right. Yeah, no, Corn Dog Castle is right over there. I was standing at Corn Dog Castle, and I looked at this, and I thought, well, that would be a good idea right after this giant corn dog. Yeah, well done, everybody. So when I have you on the show, here's the thing. Tom Merritt, I think I said that, by the way. Tom Merritt is here with us. Tom, host of Daily Tech News Show. And is there something else you want to tell people about?
Daily Tech News Show is really the thing. But Daily Tech News Show has spun out its first show without me involved in any way. The Tech John, our regular contributor, Rob Dunwood, tried it out as an experiment. We did an experiment week on DTNS. And so you should go check it out. It's Rob Dunwood along with Terrence Gaines and Stephanie Humphrey. They are all either tech workers, tech reporters, or both in Terrence's case. And they're just talking about technology from their perspective. They're all African Americans. So every week they look at the stories of the week and talk about it without code switching. If you want to hear what their community thinks of the technology out there, certainly they're not speaking for every single one of them, but they're trying to give you their insights on stuff. So go check that out. The Tech John, JAWN.com.
The Tech John. All right. Very cool. So when this show tends to be fairly Apple focused because, I do Mac OS Ken, which is the Apple News thing, And so I have you on, and I'm like, and of course we'll talk about the new Apple gear. And it occurs to me, you're usually pretty up on, I want to say, I can't remember if you trade every year or not. I guess we'll find out. But my assumption is that you did get something, or you at least eyed everything that Apple announced. I'm curious what your thoughts are on the new Apple gear. This past week we had the 9th generation iPad come out. We had the 6th generation iPad mini, and of course we had the iPhone 13 line. Have you had any of that in your hands in the past 48 hours or so? And if so, what did you get? And if not, why not?
We always cover the Apple announcements on DTNS, of course. So I always pay attention to everything they announce. I do try to live in both Android and iOS on my phone. So I don't get the new iPhone every year. I do updates. I try to kind of mimic what do I think a reasonable person would do in my situation instead of me, who are definitely not a reasonable person. So I went from the iPhone 7 to the iPhone 10, the 10, the X, not the 10R, the 10S, right? To the iPhone 12, iPhone 12 Pro last year. So I did not upgrade this year, but I did get to pick up an actual iPhone 13 Pro because my wife got one. I got the new iPhone 13 Pro. And I have to say, my impression of it is a very nice phone. Camera has all of the bells and whistles that they promised, and they seem to work great. Cinematic mode is not really there yet. It works, but it's not really something that's eminently practical. But it does give you portrait mode and video, which is great. Overall, my impression of all of the Apple announcements in this September round were great announcements for somebody who needs that product, right? If you're like, man, I've been waiting to get an iPad, or I've wanted a small iPad, or it's about time for me to upgrade to a new iPhone. These are great time to do that, because they all have good spec upgrades, chip upgrades, and some cool extra features. There is nothing in this round of announcements that is, by gosh, I wasn't gonna upgrade, but they did that, and now I have to.
Yeah, I put the question out on Twitter the day after, or the day of, I think, the event, asking whether this was an S year or whether this was these were legit upgrades. And yeah, it was very unscientific. I think like 68 people participated, and 75%, or maybe it was 72%, I can't remember which, said this is an S year. And then other people say, no, this is definitely worth the upgrade. The people who were impressed with it were really impressed with the speed of the chip. They were really impressed with the camera improvements. I'm kind of with you, though. It feels like this is we need it's time for a new phone. Like the thing that I feel weird about, I mentioned yesterday that there are kids in the house. One of them was walking around with an iPhone 4S, I believe, the youngest, and then the other one was walking around with an iPhone 6S. The 6S probably could have survived, but we literally got a message from the carrier of the phone that's on a 4S. It was like, right, so we're shutting that network down. You're going to need to do something about that. And so we were like, well, we know they're going to be announcing new iPhones in a couple of weeks, so we'll go ahead and commit to getting new iPhones. I won't say that I wish I hadn't, because I'm really liking the iPhone 13, but it's not such a change from the iPhone 11, which I passed down to one of the kids, that I'm feeling it. I mean, I like the different feel of the form factor, because the iPhone 11 still had the rounded edges. The iPhone 12 has the sort of the harder edges. Assuming I ever go anyplace again, I'm looking forward to seeing how 5G does, but I live on Wi-Fi when I'm at home. I mean, it's cool. I have tried cinematic mode, as you say. I mean, what I like about it is it does give people, the tools to show what they can do and to tell the kind of story that they want to tell. It's obviously not as good as having a camera that is dedicated and able to do that, or, a cinematographer maybe who actually can do that. But I mean, it puts yet another tool in your hand that, it used to be you had to pay between $700 and $1,000 to get a video camera that would just do that would have that feature in. Curious about the iPad Mini for you. Was this a thing that piques your interest at all, or are you a mini tablet person, or where are you on that one?
Yeah, I've never had an iPad Mini. I've never had a use case for it. I do look at it as potentially like a nice bedside item to maybe, watch a TV show or read a book at night. But to me, it's not quite cheap enough yet, although it's pretty close, to warrant buying it just for something like that. I know there are plenty of other use cases out there that people have, and I think it's a great product for that. But I see it now, as other people have said, as something where gosh, if they just put a phone app in it, it's suddenly like a really nice big screen phone. So I almost wish they did. But on the other hand, there's so many ways you could make calls without using a cellular network now that for some people, that's probably all they need.
Yeah, that's a good point. I'm kind of curious too about, I think I'm going with a Apple Watch Series 7, because a combination of the sensors from last year's with the larger screen size, even though I know the one from next year is going to have different sensors and be a much better watch. It's kind of like, well, but that's a year from now. Do you really hold on a year because the next one's going to be better? Because guess what? At that point, you might as well hold on another year, because the next one's going to be even better than that.
Well, and I think we are getting to that point where you don't look, even at MacBooks, but certainly at laptops, you don't look at new laptops coming out and go, ooh, is this the one that'll make me upgrade from last year's laptop? No, you get a laptop when your old laptop gets old and slow and doesn't do a thing that you need it to do anymore.
Right.
And I think we're getting there with all of these other form factors. They've all been around for a long time now. iPhones have been around for 14 years. So I feel like we should stop thinking about it as, wow, this young product, they're going to keep adding amazing features every year, and I'll want to get the new one so I have the latest and greatest. We're at product maturity with this stuff. And that's how I feel about the Apple Watch, which is when I went from the 3 to the 5, I think it was, it was like a revelation. I was like, oh my gosh, this is a great. No, it was the 3 to the 6. As I got it last year.
Okay.
It was like, what an amazing improvement. And it's because they'd had all these incremental improvements over the years that had accumulated. If I went from the 6 to the 7, I'd be like, it's kind of bigger screen, keyboard. Okay, that's kind of interesting. But I imagine someday, where down the road, if I jump from the 6 to the 10 or whatever it's going to be called, that it'll be more compelling. And I think that time between is getting longer, and that's not a problem for Apple, because they're getting people into the tent all the time. What could be a problem for their stockholders is, yes, but where's the big flashy new thing that you didn't have last year? Because the problem with a mature product line is it doesn't grow as fast.
That's the one thing that's really, and this has been a thing that's been annoying me for a very long time, and I'm still, as much as I talk about, the stock side of things or the financial analyst side of things, I still can't get my head around the need for growth. And I understand the need for growth, except I think it's Wedbush analyst Daniel Ives who says that there are about 950 million iPhones out there. Is that right? Easily a third of them is ready for an upgrade at any point. Even with the elongated product cycle, you're looking at people who, they're not upgrading until every 3 years, but you're still adding a few more people each time. Plus, at any point, a third of a billion is ready to buy another one of your things. So even if you're not looking at growth, you're looking at like a sustained ecosystem. And then, so maybe you don't have a thing on the phone that's going to make 500 million, buy it that year. You still got all the services that you're adding in. You've got all the other, little things that you're adding in that are, I don't know. The whole where's the whiz bang thing drives me crazy, because at this point, we're in just constant upgrade cycle for every single thing that Apple makes, it seems. iPod Touch not included. I don't know. Does that make sense, or is it?
Yeah, it does. But because there's different motivations. If you or I buy a stock, and that stock keeps its value over the next 25 years, and we retire and it's worth exactly the same, even adjusted for inflation, as it was when we bought it, we're going to be mad. We're going to be like, why did I buy that stock? Right? But as a customer, you're like, yeah, you've got a great business. Just keep that business going. You don't have to grow, but you've got different people want different things out of the company in that case. Yeah.
Well, I think I'm thinking about the product itself, because it's not like Apple is not growing. It's just the iPhone may not have the whatever. You're not necessarily hitting the accelerator every single time you release a new iPhone, but with things like Apple One and the different services, things that they're adding in, the growth, it seems like, is still there. It's just
the growth is going to different areas, and maybe it's because it's not whiz bangy enough. To be like, ooh, growth in a service, I don't know. But most financial analysts, if the numbers on the spreadsheet, they don't care what the product looks like.